Take off your pants, Quinn, unless you'd rather watch us with your girlfriend. I stood there naked, facing my worst bullies as they got ready to go rough on my girlfriend. I followed this ritual for years. They make me clean filthy toilets and force me to drink from disgusting puddles, taunting me that it is piss, cackling as I choke. Every task is a fresh humiliation, designed to break me. I cannot show them my real power, not yet, because I have a dark secret to protect. Stay down. I'll make sure your cute girlfriend will be screaming my name tonight. Quinn hurt all over, but he picked himself up and faced the 7-foot-tall Troy. To many, Troy was the handsome star superhero of the academy. To Quinn, he was his worst nightmare. "Where is Jennifer?" Quinn asked. Troy smirked. "Clearly not by your side any longer. After I've beaten you, by midnight I'm sure she'll have forgotten who you are, talentless Talon." Quinn clenched his fists. "I may not have any superpowers, but what I have with Jennifer is real." Troy levitated into the air. Balls of fire danced above both his palms. "Great. Why don't you use your feelings and I use my superpower, and let's see who wins the Apex tournament?" Troy chided. "If you can defeat me, I won't lay a finger on Jennifer again, even if we both know she'll be begging me for it." Quinn could not contain his rage anymore. He lunged at Troy with nothing but his naked fists. Half of his shirt had been reduced to ash, revealing a skinny, pale chest. Ember atop his head burned through his hair. Troy was thrice his size, literally, but Quinn fearlessly attacked. He swung his fist in the middle of the arena boxing ring, but Troy simply smiled. A blast of fire shielded Troy and sent Quinn flying. Before Quinn could rise, Troy leapt into the air and slammed his body down on Quinn. He put the weak freshman in a chokehold. "Look who's shown up," Troy whispered in Quinn's ear. Quinn's eyes darted out of the boxing ring, where he found Jennifer, looking back apathetically. "Jennifer," Quinn managed. "Troy and his friends did something to you, right? Did one of them use telepathy? I'll save you. I promise I'll save you." Jennifer scoffed. "Save me? No, Quinn. 1, you can't save me, and 2, I don't need saving. We're done, Quinn. I'm with Troy now." Quinn grimaced in pain. "Why? We've been friends since we could walk. We've been dating for 10 years. I thought everything was good. Why did you cheat on me?" Jennifer's eyes glowed purple, highlighting her rage. "Everything was good? Did you know how difficult it was being the girlfriend of the biggest loser in the academy? You're powerless, Quinn. Look at yourself. You can't protect yourself, much less put up a fight. This was your last chance to prove yourself against Troy. But look at yourself. What a pathetic showing." Quinn felt Troy's chokehold tighten. He flailed, trying to release himself, but Troy's grip was steel. "Yield already," Troy taunted. "You know you want to. Just tap out." Quinn refused to. He squirmed like a little worm and the whole stadium burst into laughter. Jennifer shook her head, feeling the second-hand embarrassment. "This isn't right, Jennifer," Quinn rasped. He was losing consciousness, but he still refused to tap out. He had some fight left in him. But then, a flaming fist slammed into his face. And the last thing Quinn remembered was Jennifer turning away, disgusted. Everything went black. Quinn had lost the match in humiliating fashion. But little did any of them know, the tables would be turned very soon. Later that night, battered and bruised, Quinn reached outside his dorm room. He felt something poking on his leg. He yanked the jewelry box from his pocket. It was his grandmother's wedding ring. He was going to give it to Jennifer as a promise ring. He couldn't afford to marry her yet, but maybe in a few years. But now it was worthless. "Stupid ring!" he yelled. In a daze, he threw the velvet box down the hallway, and it crashed against the far wall. When he realized what he'd done, he snapped out of it. "Damn it," he said to himself. He ran to the end of the hallway and scooped up the ring. Thankfully, it was all right. Still in one piece. Only the jewelry box was destroyed, so he stuck the naked ring in his pocket. What the hell am I gonna do now? He wondered. But just then, his phone pinged with a message. Quinn slipped it out of his bag. The message was from an unknown number. To Quinn Talon, from ISA Base 039G. You have 24 hours to pick up your belongings, or they will be incinerated. An escort will arrive to pick you up at your home at 0800 hours. Quinn stared at the message. What the hell? Is this even real? Maybe it's a scam, he thought. Regardless, he wanted to be ready for whatever happened, so he hurried home. Quinn had no idea that what was waiting for him would change his life forever. The next morning, Quinn woke to pounding on his door. He threw on a shirt and pants, realizing he had overslept. When he opened the door, he found two muscled soldiers. "Quinn Talon," one growled. "That's me," Quinn said. "We have to confirm," one soldier said. He revealed a biometric scanner. "Just look into the screen." Quinn looked at the screen as a green light scanned his face. A computer voice spoke from the tablet. "Confirmed Quinn Talon, 17 years old, student at Powered High School, parents deceased, killed during second wave of alien invasion." Quinn rolled his eyes, annoyed. "What is this a date?" The soldiers looked at him with humorless faces. "Follow us," one said. They led Quinn to an olive-drab government vehicle parked out front and climbed in the back. He was nervous, but a little excited to see what kind of ability he would be given. He knew it wouldn't be much, but he had never had anything before. "What's this all about?" Quinn asked. The soldiers didn't answer. "Where are we going?" Quinn pressed. Still nothing. "What is the mysterious thing I'm going to receive?" Again the soldiers were silent. "You can't tell me anything?" Quinn pressed. "Affirmative," one of the men finally grumbled. "Fine," Quinn said. He sat back in the Spartan seats and watched out the window as the vehicle sped across the city to a heavily fortified military base. "Wow," Quinn said, taking it all in. The walls around it must have been 20 feet tall, ringed with plasma grenade turrets. There was no sign out front except for a symbol of a circle with a rocket through it. "Where are we?" Quinn asked. "The armory," the men said in unison. Outside the gate, the vehicle was inspected by both X-ray scanners and bomb-sniffing dogs. It seemed like soldiers were stationed everywhere with guns sighted on Quinn. Everyone seemed ready for an imminent attack, but from where, Quinn wondered. When they were finally cleared, the massive titanium gate lumbered across. Inside the massive walls there were more soldiers and superheroes rushing about. The vehicle stopped in front of a low-slung concrete bunker. "This is it," one of the soldiers said. "This is what?" Quinn asked. "The armory. Go inside. You'll get more instructions." Quinn exited the vehicle and strode to the front door of the building. But as he reached the door, he was launched backward several feet. "What the hell?" he screamed. He realized that as he had reached the door, someone else had been exiting. A young woman with long brown hair, ruby eyes and muscular arms. Quinn sighed. She must have powers because just pushing the door open sent him flying. "Watch where you're going, loser," she said, looking down at him on the ground. Quinn stood up, brushing himself off. "Sorry, I didn't see you." The woman scowled at him. "What do you mean you didn't see me? I wasn't using an invisibility cloak, dumbass." As they were talking, a soldier approached in a pristinely pressed uniform. Her polished silver name tag read, Bridger. She hurried to the woman's side. "Scarlet, are you okay?" Scarlet, which Quinn realized must be the name of the woman with the red eyes, chuckled. "I'm fine. This weak-ass loser might be hurt, though." Bridger looked over at Quinn. "What's your name and serial number?" she asked with a no-nonsense attitude. "My name is Quinn Talon," Quinn answered. "But I don't have a serial number. At least not that I know of. I got a message about a vault." Quinn showed her the message on his phone. "This must be some kind of mistake," she said. "Level zeros aren't allowed inside." When Scarlet heard that, she became indignant. "This loser is a level 0. You gave me a bruise on my forehead, you punk." Quinn shrugged. "Sorry." Scarlet's face turned 3 shades of red. "Sorry?" she demanded. She stepped over to Quinn and raised her fist. But suddenly an older man in a bespoke silk suit strolled over. "Scarlet," he simply said with a calm voice. Hearing that, Scarlet scampered over to him, and they disappeared into the base, leaving Quinn and Bridger alone. Bridger turned to him. "I don't know if you have anything in the armory, but you can proceed in and check. Good luck." Quinn strolled into the strange building with stale, humid air, probably from being half buried underground. "Hello?" Inside the armory, Commander Miller was leaning against the wall looking at his phone. When the door suddenly opened, he quickly sat down and hid his phone away. Normally, when someone was coming in, They were high-ranking or very powerful. Commander Miller was responsible for every ability book in the armory, especially those reserved for special clients. But when he saw Quinn, his expression froze. He was certain that Quinn was not one of his special clients, nor was he a relative of one. "State your name," Miller said gruffly, looking at the young man who appeared to be around 20 years old. Commander Miller had no idea who he was. Quinn got straight to the point. "I'm here to get my ability book. You have one of our cards?" the commander asked, suspicious of Quinn's calm expression. "No," Quinn admitted frankly. "I'm sorry, sir. We can't give out ability books without a card. Do you require anything else?" He's crazy, Miller thought. "You have fingerprint recognition here, right?" Quinn suddenly asked. The fingerprint ID system at the armory was for special individuals, ones that were left ability books that were rare, or those chosen by the military at a very young age for their lineage. Only a few people had their fingerprints recorded in the system. "We do." "I'm not sure what that has to do with you," the commander barked. "I received a message that I would be brought here for my ability book," Quinn replied, already seeing it wasn't going to be easy. "They told me on my way in I would have my finger scanned and given my book." Robert was feeling more confused by the second. Why would they tell him that? Why would they send him there at all? Powerless people usually were given their books at training in the academy. To be honest, even though he was curious, Commander Miller felt that it was barely worth humoring the request. But after considering for a few seconds, he finally decided to let Quinn make the attempt rather than having him thrown out right away. He opened the safe and brought out the fingerprint identification device, which he had never used before. "Place your thumb here." Miller indicated the verification area to Quinn, who placed his thumb on the sensor. Beep! The device lit up with a glaring red light, and the LCD screen displayed the words, "Fingerprint not recorded." Immediately, Miller's expression turned hostile, and he glared at Quinn. He picked up his phone, ready to call security. Wait, Quinn said quickly. "Maybe that was the wrong print. I'll try using my index finger this time." Commander Miller smiled coldly. "What's your plan here? Your thumb doesn't work, so you'll try your index finger. Then, if your index finger doesn't work, you'll try your middle finger. When you run out of fingers, will you try using your toes?" But Quinn had already pressed his index finger on the verification area. The commander was tired of his games. If the fingerprint didn't work, he was ready to throw him out on his ass. Beep! A green light appeared on the device, and new details flashed up on the LCD screen. Verification successful. Family account 01. Verifier, Quinn Talon. Account 01104. Commander Miller gaped at Quinn in disbelief for a moment, and then hurriedly squeezed out a smile. "Mr. Talon, I'm sorry. I didn't realize. I'm Commander Miller, the ward of the U.S. Military Armory of Relics. Please allow me to assist you." "It's fine," Quinn said lightly and stood up. "I know there aren't that many of us, but this is a lot to go through for some level 1 ability book. Please wait a moment." Miller sat in front of the computer and typed away for a while. On his instructions, Quinn provided a few more fingerprint scans as authorization. "It's done, Mr. Talon." Miller clicked the OK button on the screen, and Quinn's account appeared. Commander Miller pointed to the computer screen and said, "Give me 1 moment and I will retrieve your book." Quinn stood there, tapping his feet, looking through the cage behind the desk. There were rows and rows of shelves, all holding ability books. But Commander Miller didn't go there. He went to a vault door, typed in a code, and disappeared inside. When he returned, he was holding a metal box with a key. "Here we are. Would you like to open it?" Quinn shook his head. "No, you go ahead." Quinn thought to himself, the book's so useless they locked them away from the others. Great. But as Commander Miller opened the box and pulled out the book, Quinn noticed the look of shock on his face. This is an extremely rare book. I've read about it. There's only this one in existence." Quinn lifted his brow, taking the red leather-bound book from him. On the cover, a pair of fangs were stuck to the front. "What ability does it have?" Commander Miller stepped back, seemingly nervous. "Well, no one really knows, but we've cataloged some possibilities." Quinn began to feel nervous. He unclasped the lock and opened it, flipping through the pages. But they were blank. "I don't get it. Quinn said. "There's nothing here." "There will be," Commander Miller replied, "when you begin to achieve the levels of the book." Quinn didn't get it. "So what powers have you heard of?" Miller leaned in closer, lowering his voice to a whisper. "We've heard this ability book can produce powers beyond any human on Earth. Immortality, strength, super speed, weapons born from the powered's own shadows. But no one alive today has ever met a powered that was given this ability book, and no one knows how it works." Quinn lifted his brow at the commander, assuming it was just another string of bad luck. "So, what do I do with it?" Commander Miller just stood there, taking another step back. As the commander reached slowly for the phone, Quinn grabbed the golden-colored cloth that was in the case, wrapped it around the book, and turned to go. He could tell it wasn't a good idea to stick around. "Thank you," Quinn yelled over his shoulder. "Talon, wait!" Commander Miller hadn't even known that the book really existed, and now that he did, he knew someone higher up than him would want to know. Bridger was anxiously waiting in the hall. What's been going on in there for so long? She wondered. Could that loser have murdered Commander Miller for a book? The more she considered it, the more scared she became. She was on the verge of banging on the door and demanding a response when Quinn walked confidently out of the room. "Stop!" Bridger shouted. She walked quickly over toward him and grabbed at his coat. "You can't leave. You broke into the armory. Once we confirm that nothing is missing, the military police will escort you to holdings and hold you for questioning." "What are you talking about?" Quinn asked. "Let go!" Bridger grappled with him for a while, but he pulled hard away from her. What's wrong with this woman? Quinn thought. He wasn't even arguing with her, but she was manhandling him. "What is this?" Bridger spotted the gold cloth-covered book he was holding. She quickly pulled it out and looked at him triumphantly, as if she had found evidence of his guilt. "Oh, you stole an ability book. This is a crime, and I have to call the MP." It didn't even cross her mind that the book could belong to Quinn. She imagined he had entered the armory, pretending to be there by mistake, and had then distracted Commander Miller with questions and stolen the book when the commander wasn't paying attention. Let go! Quinn was sick of this woman. Don't you feel guilty about being a thief? She was even more determined. With the two of them creating such a scene, other customers started to walk over toward them, intending to help Bridger keep Quinn from getting away. Just then, Commander Miller, who had finished locking up, walked quickly out of the armory. Having seen Quinn's relic, Miller now knew he could be either incredibly important or very dangerous. It was rare to meet individuals like Quinn, even if they seemed powerless. So Robert knew he had to be careful not to upset Quinn. He could be their savior. But Miller also knew, if triggered, he could be their demise. He had no idea what that book would give to him. So when he saw Sergeant Bridger struggling with Quinn, he panicked. Bridger's expression was hostile, and Quinn was becoming very angry. She was an idiot who was playing with fire, and she might drag everyone down with her. Of all the armory's many, many patrons, why did she need to pick this one to try and remove? A simple flick of Quinn's finger could be enough to end both their lives. "Stop!" Commander Miller dashed between Quinn and Bridger. Before Quinn could speak, she waved the gold cloth in the air. Her eyes flashed with triumph as she said to Miller, "Commander, look! He stole a book from the armory." She smiled at him, her expression a little smug. Surely Commander Miller would be happy with her for preventing theft. He was the most respected officer on the base, a veteran of the invasion and keeper of their ability books. He could get her off of desk duty once and for all. Commander Miller's face had always been a little glum, but as she watched, his expression grew darker and darker. Before she could figure out why, she was startled by his explosive roar, leaving her entire body trembling. "Let go of Mr. Talon!" As he yelled, Commander Miller knocked the gold cloth out of her hand, and she was so scared that she let go of Quinn. The commander pushed her aside and bent down to pick up the cloth. "Mr. Talon, I'm very sorry. I haven't trained Bridger properly. I do apologize." Commander Miller's expression showed a mixture of respect, embarrassment, and fear, as the others looked on in amazement. Sergeant Bridger was stunned. Could the book be his? She wondered. Her eyes widened. No matter how hard she tried, She couldn't make sense of it. If this man had a special ability book holder, then he had at least a wealthy or powered family to leave him such a rare gift. A poor, lower-class loser with that much power? No, it was just too unlikely. "It's not your fault, Commander Miller," Quinn assured him, slipping the card back into his pocket. "Thank you, Mr. Talon." Miller dipped his head and paused briefly before straightening up and shouting at the sergeant. "Why are you just standing there? Apologize to Mr. Talon immediately." How could Bridger still not understand? Miller thought. The young man standing in front of them was holding a gold cloth-level ability book. It made him valuable and dangerous. The sergeant immediately bowed her head at Quinn. "Mr. Talon, I'm very sorry for my rude behavior. I made a mistake, created a fuss over nothing, and put my hands on you. It was my fault, and I will reflect on my behavior." Quinn ignored her and walked away. "Mr. Talon?" the commander called after him. "If you ever need anything, just give me a call and I'll do my best to help. And as a suggestion, I would keep quiet about what you have received. In fact, I wouldn't tell anyone." Quinn nodded nervously. He didn't understand what could possibly be so important about a book with nothing in it, but it had spooked a war veteran, so he figured he should probably listen, at least for now. Just then, he looked at his watch. "Oh shit, I'm late!" he yelled. He sprinted out of the armory and base and hailed a taxi. "Elite High School," he told the driver. It was the last day of classes, and despite whatever mystery he held in his hands, he had to finish his classes. What Quinn didn't realize was the book he held might have made him the most dangerous being alive. As Quinn rushed across campus, he accidentally stepped into a puddle, splashing mud all over his legs. "Damn it!" he yelled. But he didn't have time to change or clean off his legs. He hurried into his classroom, where Mr. Morgan was already standing at the podium, lecturing. Mr. Morgan spotted Quinn out of the corner of his eye, and a hint of disappointment flashed across his face. Feeling guilty, Quinn lowered his head. Of all his teachers, Mr. Morgan was his favorite. The other teachers tended to ignore Quinn because he had no powers, and some even openly mocked him. Only Mr. Morgan treated him like any other student. Quinn slipped quietly into a row of desks at the back of class. He suddenly realized that all the students were staring at him, and he could hear them whispering. He isn't usually late. Hell must have frozen over. Look at his pants. They're filthy. Doesn't he have any clean clothes? Are you joking? It's not like he'd have the money for new ones. It looks like he's just thrown on whatever he could find. He looks homeless," someone whispered too loud. "All right, silence everyone," Mr. Morgan shouted. Throughout the lecture, Quinn noticed that Mr. Morgan kept glancing at him, his eyes full of disapproval, as if Quinn had failed to live up to his expectations. Eventually, the lecture was over. "Class dismissed," Mr. Morgan said. He packed up his textbooks and left. "Jennifer?" The voice came from the doorway. Everyone turned in the direction of the voice and saw Troy walking through the door and going straight to Jennifer, who was sitting by the window. She stood and hugged him, pulling him in close to her body. Troy lowered his head, and the two of them began to kiss. Many of the students turned to stare at Quinn. Everyone thought that he was Jennifer's boyfriend, and they weren't aware that she had broken up with him. Quinn watched in disgust. He'd heard that Troy had taken at least 5 different girls to stay at that hotel. Jennifer was just the latest in a long line, and Quinn had no intention of fighting for her. Troy strutted past Quinn with his arm around Jennifer's waist. "Darling, wait a minute," Jennifer said to Troy as she stopped in front of Quinn and held out her phone. "Since we've broken up, I don't want to owe you anything. Here's the phone you bought for me a few weeks ago. You can have it back." Quinn glanced at the Samsung Galaxy phone, but before he could take it, she smirked and tossed it high into the air. Troy shot lasers from his eyes and hit the phone, blowing it into pieces. "Aw, poor Quinny," Troy laughed. "Guess you can't return that one. No food for a month for you." "Ha! You would have to work part-time for 6 months to afford one of these." Jennifer took a brand new phone out of her pocket and showed it to Quinn. "This is the latest iPhone, and it's much better than your phone. Of course, it's far too expensive for a loser like him." Troy raised his chin and looked at Quinn. "Jennifer told me that she kept asking for that phone for 6 months before you finally bought it for her. Do you think you can pick up a girl so far out of your league? You're just embarrassing yourself, so give up. And I'm warning you now. Don't even think about her." If I find out you've gone anywhere near her, you'll regret it. Don't waste your breath talking to a loser like him. Can we go to DeLuca's for lunch? Jennifer had already dismissed Quinn. Call me baby, Troy said, smiling at her. Baby, let's go. She flirted with him right in front of Quinn. In the middle of it, a beautiful young woman with a purple streak in her hair stood up. Jennifer, have some class, she said, glaring at Jennifer. You're taking this too far. I never thought you'd break up with Quinn, and I'm ashamed of you. Jennifer scowled at Layla. Why do you care? Layla shook her head in disapproval. Look, people break up all the time. That's your prerogative. But you don't have to rub his nose in it at every opportunity. Quinn never hurt a fly, and all you're doing is trying to hurt him. Jennifer laughed. You're right about one thing. Quinn never hurt a fly, probably because a fly would hurt him. Layla's hands clenched into fists. You're a heartless bitch, Jen. Just leave Quinn alone. Jennifer stuck up her nose. Why? Do you like him? Layla rolled her eyes at Jennifer. This isn't about me. Jennifer nodded. Yes, 1,000,000 times yes. What's so wrong about liking money and power? That's what makes the universe go round. Oh, she stuck her nose in the air and grabbed Troy's arm. Come on, baby, let's go. These two urchins disgust me. Jennifer glared at Quinn and Layla, and then swept out of the classroom with her head held high. Once she was gone, Layla turned to Quinn. You all right? Quinn nodded. Yeah, it's not the first time I've heard those things. Layla strolled over to him and hugged him. You're better off without her. You've seen her true nature and she's not worth being upset over. Quinn smiled. I'll be okay. Thanks for standing up for me. Layla smiled at him hopefully. Come on. To celebrate being free of that bitch, I'll treat you to dinner. Don't argue. How about a nice place somewhere off campus like DeLuca's? DeLuca's was an upscale Italian restaurant, and only the most powerful students at the school could afford to eat there. It was also Jennifer and Troy's favorite place. Quinn shook his head. Maybe another time? I don't want to bump into Jennifer. But one day I'll take you out, okay? Inside, Quinn wanted to scream. This was his Achilles heel. He just didn't have the money to do what everyone else did. Seeing Layla's disappointment made him even more embarrassed. I gotta go, he said simply, and he hurried away. Would his whole life be like this? Little did he know, his whole life was about to change, and he could take Layla to any restaurant in the city. But not yet. For now, though, Quinn hustled back to his dorm. On his way, he got a message from his roommate, Vorden. It read, Yo, it's official. I'm no longer single. See you at the room. Quinn chuckled. Even during this painful situation, he still felt happy for Vorden. That lucky son of a bitch, Quinn whispered to himself. As he raced through his building, he saw his other roommate, Peter. Did you see Vorden's message? Quinn asked. Yeah, said Peter. Back at the room, they flung open the door and saw Vorden sitting on the bed with a girl holding hands. Vorden was a level 3, and he was strong and muscular too. No one really understood why he hung out with powerless Quinn, and Peter, who barely had any powers himself. What's good, my bros, he said. Then he introduced the young woman, Susan. She's a level 3, Vorden said. Susan stood up and nodded with a smile. Peter looked at her, and his heart started beating faster. She had pale skin, delicately shaped eyebrows, and a great body. She's perfect, he thought. Let's celebrate, announced Vorden. I'm taking you all out. Vorden then turned to Quinn and said, Why don't you bring Jennifer along? Everyone knew about Quinn's lack of power and that he couldn't get into trendy restaurants, so Vorden decided to take this opportunity to help his friend. We've split up, Quinn said bluntly. Split up? Really? Vorden was shocked. Peter glanced at Vorden, and he understood the silent message. The reason for the split was obvious. Quinn's lack of powers. Hurry up. Susan looked at her phone and then raised her head. My roommates have already left for the restaurant, and they're all quite impatient, so don't make them wait too long. Okay, then you guys get cleaned up and changed, and then we can get going, Vorden urged them, tugging at Susan's hand. Come on, let's wait for them outside. Vorden stepped outside the dormitory with Susan and turned to see her standing with her arms crossed. What's wrong? He asked. She frowned. Aren't your roommates a little too unpowered? I mean, Peter's not very handsome, and obviously not rich enough for any good ability book. Quinn isn't bad, but I've heard people teasing him. He's powerless. How can I introduce them to my roommates? Vorden felt a little uncomfortable, but he forced a smile and said, "It's just a meal. It's not like it's a blind date or anything, so why do you care so much about their powers?" "Do you think my friends are just coming for the food?" she asked. "I know them. Although they didn't come right out and say it, they're hoping your roommates are good boyfriend material. I've shown them your picture, and they must think that your friends are like you." She frowned. "Then blame me because I didn't tell you they're all underpowered." His smile was a little bitter. He'd been assigned to Quinn and Peter's dorm because the others were full. But he liked them. He protected them. "Why don't you tell your roommates that the meal is canceled?" she suggested. "They'd probably just end up embarrassed if they went." "Cancel it?" "No. If he canceled now, it would be awkward. Wouldn't that just make things worse?" "Fine then, but I'm not responsible for whatever happens," she pouted. Just then, she received a call from one of her roommates. Susan held her cell phone to her ear. "Scarlett, you two are there? How is it?" When we get there, you'll see for yourselves." "All right, I'll hurry them up. Just wait." As she was talking, Quinn and Peter came out of the dormitory. "Vorden, see how good I look?" Peter gestured to his half-sleeve shirt as he looked at Vorden expectantly. "Cool." Vorden smiled and patted his shoulder. Thankfully, Peter hadn't heard Susan try to cancel the lunch. If he had, it would have been a blow to his confidence. Vorden looked at Quinn, who had followed Peter out. He frowned. "Quinn, why haven't you changed? What about my friends?" Susan asked. "Can't you get dressed up for them?" "Something. Quinn looks fine." "What do you expect him to wear?" Peter asked. "He's not Vorden, and he's never going to look like him." Susan shook her head. Her roommates were going to be very disappointed. This was going to be a disaster. "Fine, but just don't bring up your levels, okay? Let's go," she urged them, and they all followed her out of the dormitory. Scarlett and Stacy sat at a table in La Belle Vie. All of them were pretty, and it was clear they came from good families. Scarlett, a level 2 powered, had long hair that draped over her shoulders. Her skin was fair, and she had a small face with large, sparkling eyes, a straight nose, and pretty pink lips. She looked like a beautiful princess straight out of a fairy tale. She was the prettiest of the 3 girls, and also the center of attention. "Scarlett, there's a lump on your forehead. What happened?" Stacy gestured to the small bulge on her forehead. "Oh." Scarlett touched the little mark, her sweet face looking a little angry. "Don't remind me, Stacy. Remember how I said I went to the armory with my father to pick up my new ability book? Well, I met a powerless dumbass who got in the way of the door. Ouch! Did he at least apologize? The armory is usually a place only for the most powered, right?" Scarlett used her phone to take a picture of her head and then checked it. Thankfully, the lump was not too obvious. She put her phone down and smiled at her friend. He did apologize. "I was a bit stunned when I saw him there. You know what kind of people the armory is there for, right?" "You mean those with the strongest powers?" Stacy asked. "So this guy didn't belong?" "Exactly. The armory only gives ability books to people who have special powers, a whole lot of money, or special circumstances," Scarlett confirmed. "So he didn't belong there." "Some people think that the weaker a person looks, the more powered they are," Stacy suggested. "Which means he might be a powerhouse keeping a low profile. Scarlett, tell me all about him." Scarlett rolled her eyes. "Why?" Later on, when the sergeant came over, she found out that the guy didn't even have paperwork. I think he was just an idiot who went there thinking they'd give him something out of pity. Maybe he thought that just anyone could get an upper-level book. "If I'd done that, I would have died from embarrassment," Stacy exclaimed. "After all that, I didn't even look at him and just left with my dad." Scarlett tossed her hair over her shoulder. "We'll see if he dares to try it again in the future. Or if he dares to show his face anywhere. They might have thrown him in the brig for all I know. Probably better that way." "The guy's not a child," Stacy pointed out. "Doesn't he have any common sense? I guess he's destined to be a loser for his entire life." "Who would want a guy like that? Let's stop talking about him. I never saw him again anyway." Scarlett sighed. "Why isn't Susan here with the others yet?" "Seriously." Scarlett picked up her phone and frowned slightly as she looked at the screen displaying her chat with Susan. Her boyfriend is rather handsome and quite muscly. Just my type. If one of his roommates looks like that, don't fight me for him." Scarlet winked. "You little slut," Stacy said playfully. "Only if they have powers," Scarlet said with a wink. Little did they know, Quinn and Peter were the lowest of the low. A short time later, Vorden, Susan, Peter, and Quinn arrived at the fancy restaurant. When Quinn peeked inside the stylish interior, he noticed the snobby young woman he bumped into at the armory. "Damn it," he whispered to himself. "What?" asked Vorden. "Oh, jam it," I said, replied Quinn, lying. "I think I jammed my finger in the door. Maybe I'll go to the bathroom to run it under some cold water." Vorden looked at him skeptically, but he shrugged. "Suit yourself," he said. "Meet us at the table." As Vorden, Susan, and Peter strolled over to Scarlet and Stacy, Quinn peeled off from the group and ducked into the bathroom. Quinn quickly locked the door as he began hyperventilating. He shook his head. "I can't bail on Vorden without an explanation, but I can't deal with that bitch again." He splashed water on his face and looked at himself in the mirror. "Get it together, you powerless loser." He gripped the sides of the sink as rage began to fill his chest. "You'll never be anything, Quinn. You'll never be a cool ladies' man like Vorden. You'll never be a war hero like your parents. Hell, you're barely any cooler than Peter." He saw red and he punched the mirror, shattering the glass and slicing his hand in the process. The sound of angry knocks rang out from the other side of the door. A man with a French accent called out with worry, "Sir, what's going on in there?" Quinn looked at his bloody fist. He ran over to the paper towel dispenser, but it was empty. He ripped open his backpack, looking for something to wrap his wound. He pulled the mysterious book out and placed it on the sink. Some blood leaked off his hand and onto the cover. What Quinn didn't know was that the book's cover had begun reacting to his blood, but Quinn shoved it back in his bag in haste. He walked over to the door and unlocked it to an angry French man. "What was that glass breaking? You will pay for the damages." Quinn muscled past the man and walked over to the table. He sat down to a confused look from Peter and Vorden, and a disgusted look from the girls. Scarlet glared at him, shocked to her core. "What are you doing here?" Quinn shrugged. "I was invited by Vorden." Vorden was confused. "You two know each other?" But right when Quinn was about to answer, the restaurant was rocked by an explosion outside. "What was that?" Through the restaurant windows, the group could see the sky filled with Dalki ships blasting beams of energy at the ground below, destroying everything they touched. Everyone scattered as an emergency alert rang out on their phones. "The Dalkas have attacked. War is imminent." Quinn felt his backpack vibrating. He ripped it open to find the book pulsing with energy. He saw that the book had absorbed all his blood. He looked down at the book in awe and then out at the destruction happening outside. Could this be because of this book? He wondered. But right then, a dark voice echoed in his head. "Specimen found. Activating the vampire system." The book suddenly opened. What happened? What was the system and book that Quinn accessed? What did Quinn choose? Would he ever get revenge on Jennifer and Troy? And more importantly, did he now have powers? What exactly is his secret? To find out, listen to My Vampire System, the spellbinding hit web novel, now streaming exclusively on the free Pocket FM app. Click to download the app and continue listening for free, right now.